This Giving Tuesday, the need is greater than ever. Families, friends, neighbors facing food insecurity in a pandemic. Together, we can help spread hope. Please donate to a month of 1 million meals, benefiting Feeding San Diego on 10news.com.
Good morning, you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We're having a very important conversation today. I'm Virginia Cha with ABC10 News, and we're talking about a month of 1 million meals. Now, we're kicking this off a week early this year because, as you know, the pandemic has affected so many lives, and you would expect that people who are dealing with food insecurity, well, the numbers have grown. Because of the pandemic, there are thousands of people for the very first time experiencing hunger, and we are here with Feeding San Diego to help. And I want to introduce you. I'm very excited to talk to. He is a TV host, Food Network, a writer, San Diego Magazine. You can see his work there, as well as Big Ten Network. So glad to have Troy Johnson here, who's going to give us some really important information as well as his insights so that you understand better why we have this partnership, ABC 10 News and Feeding San Diego, to help feed our neighbors. Because Troy, as you know, I mean, the statistics are staggering. 1 in 8 San Diegans, that includes 1 in 5 children who don't know where their next meal is coming from.
Yeah, food insecurity is the thing that's not really talked about. And it's an invisible source of shame for a lot of people. It's an invisible, force in our community. And, the kid, like you said, 1 in 5 kids is not getting enough food or doesn't know where that next meal is coming from. That is affecting him at school, him or her at school. That is affecting their family. That's affecting the community. The ripple effect goes upwards. When we have one person insecure and not knowing where the food is coming from, it is felt at every level of our society. And I'm so glad to be here this morning. Thank you for having me on, because anytime Feeding San Diego has ever called to ask me to do anything, I've just said, you just tell me the time, I will shut everything down and I will show up, because it is one of the best organizations that I've ever been involved with and I've ever seen. And when this started, like you said, the changing face of hunger. We have this in our head that, it is families who, have always traditionally struggled, with, making ends meet and paying the bills and everything else. And that has changed because of COVID. That's changed. I mean, people who were doing fine, were doing okay, who had, career track jobs that they would work their entire lives off for, are all of a sudden having the carpet pulled out from underneath them, and they need help as well. 31 million meals were given out by Feeding San Diego last year, and that is, they expect the increase to be 50% on top of that during all of this. It's staggering to me what they were able to pull off. The hardest part is that, for me as a food writer, one of the biggest things that we see is food waste, right? And in America, we waste 40% of the food that we grow, and yet still we have hunger in America. And in 2017, we wasted enough food in America to fill the Empire State Building 91 times. 91 times, Empire State Building. And yet we still have people going hungry. So what Feeding San Diego has done is they've taken this food, and it's the same thing we do actually on Food Network with the show I work on Guys Grocery Games. It's a grocery store. We have to fill it. We have 4 chefs come through and they cook, but they can't cook at all. So when the food gets near a date, near the sell-by date, the food bank comes down to the set and they donate all that food to the local community in Santa Rosa where we film. Feeding San Diego does the same thing. So they take all this food that would otherwise go to waste in 3 or 4 days, and they save it. They rescue it. It doesn't go to a landfill, which is absolutely asinine in a modern society that we would send that much food to a landfill. So anyways, that's my long soliloquy to start the day. I really appreciate you having me on. Please go ahead, talk. I feel like I'm just ranting here.
Yeah, and throughout, I'm going to let people know. I mean, right now, if you go to 10news.com, it is up and ready for donations. It's at the very top of the homepage. You cannot miss it. Just click on it if you want to make a donation. And, this year, as you know, Troy, more than ever, monetary donations are necessary because COVID changed everything in terms of the way Feeding San Diego has had to operate and how they rescue food and how they distribute food. So can you talk a little bit about how that change has made them scramble, but they're doing a great job?
Yeah, they absolutely changed the business model on Feeding San Diego overnight. I talked with a CEO and in the beginning of the pandemic. And usually, what they have, I mean, they have, I think, over 600 locations that donate them food. Well, a lot of those locations, they were either grocery stores or restaurants or cafes or something like that. They're like, this food is going to go bad in 3 days. Can you please distribute this to somebody who needs it? Well, a lot of those places either closed, or you're talking about grocery stores. We know what happened at grocery stores. There's no bread left. There's no flour left. There's no food left because everybody was, shopping so much to feed themselves at home that they didn't have that excess to give to Feeding San Diego. So Feeding San Diego had to buy truckloads of food, for the first time. I mean, they've been so successful at saving food and going to the landfill over the years. And now for the first time, they're actually having to buy truckloads of food to feed our San Diegans in need. So that's why the money is so important right now. It's the generosity of the community is just not available. It's not that people don't want to. It's that everything is sold out, or restaurants are going under, or restaurants, don't have that access to give. So yeah, money is absolutely, it's liquid in the marketplace. You can do anything with money. You can't do anything with a loaf of bread. So they really need hands, and they need volunteers, and they need money to get all of San Diegans fed.
Yeah, and you talk about truckloads. You are not kidding. I mean, literally truckloads of food, but that has multiplied because of the need that has gone up since COVID started. And, I'm sure, Troy, you have as well gone down to the main warehouse of Feeding San Diego. And I got to tell you, I was there, of course, before the pandemic, and it is impressive. I mean, a well-oiled machine. And, when we talk about rescued food, this is not food that is spoiling or rotting. No. As all of us know, if you've ever bought anything from the grocery store and it goes a little bit past the best by date and you've had it, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I've eaten food like that, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's just kind of a catch, a safety, just to kind of make sure that they have to put that on there. But they have so many varieties of food. And Troy, I'm also really impressed with what they do with fresh produce, which is so difficult. Boxed and canned is a little bit easier to store for long periods of time, but that fresh produce that people need, that children need, they do a great job with that.
That's what I love about the changing nature of feeding people in need. It used to be cans. It used to be macaroni and cheese. It used to be the nutritional, equivalent of, well, who cares? I mean, really, that's what it wasn't that nobody cared. I take that back. It was just like, it just wasn't nutritionally good. And that has changed, and that is, they're getting, leafy vegetables and fruits and things with, all of it's focused on nutrition now, because we realize, that, just because you give somebody calories doesn't mean that you gave them nutrition. In many ways, you can do the opposite effect. You can have a negative, deleterious effect on somebody if you give them, a ton of sodium and a ton of sugar and everything else. So Feeding San Diego and a lot of the organizations throughout San Diego now are focused on health and holistic approach to eating, which, hey, we all should be. I mean, I love my mac and cheese, and if I ate it every single day, I would, it would be a very short life. So we need to focus on, getting people actual, real food, that sustains their body, especially during this, because, if you don't have food during all of this, I mean, I think about the stress that's been on my family. I have lost work, I have lost money, I have lost social contacts, we've all lost a lot. I'm not complaining, because there's so many people that are far worse off than I am. I keep it all in perspective, but it hasn't been easy. And if you don't have a baseline of nutrition to start your day, you don't have health, if you don't get exercise, that stress level would just, it goes up exponentially. You just become a little, atom bomb of stress, and so, feeding people well, not just getting food in their bodies, but feeding them well is the baseline. As we know, food is medicine. It's a baseline for a healthy, happy human being, which is the only way you're really going to survive all this.
You are so right. And again, Feeding San Diego doesn't miss a beat, and they understand that, it's not enough just to give people, as you point out, something that's like a sodium bomb. They understand that you need nutritious, well-balanced meals, because we're talking about people. And again, when you're talking about vulnerable populations, seniors, children, and all walks of life we're talking about here. There's no one who is untouched by this. It doesn't matter what you do. There are military families who also need help while their loved ones may be overseas. They may be struggling here. One of the couple things I just wanted to point out to folks, we popped up there a few minutes ago, the 10news.com website where you can go to donate right now, and it is tax deductible. And also, your donation will be matched dollar for dollar up to $20,000, which will be matched by Tracon Pharmaceuticals. So a big thanks to them for doing that. That is huge. And tonight, there's a phone bank that goes from 4 to 8 p.m. You can call in, and hopefully they're going to pop up the number here, but I'm going to read it really quickly for you in case you want to write it down right now. It's 858-500-500-7805. And you can call and also make your pledge that way. Troy, can you talk a little bit about how things have changed over the years? I mean, this partnership has been going on for almost 10 years. And in the beginning, it's hard getting the word out, and things have really changed since then.
Yeah, I mean, things have changed because Feeding San Diego has done, a phenomenal job of getting the word out. I mean, that is the hardest thing, right? I mean, they have over 10,000 volunteers. It is a massive, massive beast, to keep under control and get the amount of food to the people in need that they need to do. And through social media and through doing things like this, and I did a progressive dinner with Feeding San Diego. We had 3 local chefs, do a dinner for people who would donate. They'd show you how to make a recipe, all of these sorts of things. Really, it's marketing and word of mouth, because they've opened up so many emergency relief shelters, drive-through centers that people can go get food. They're doing 700,000 meals a month right now. 700,000 meals a month. In order to do that, you obviously need to get this PR machine or just this voice out. You need you to come on with me, and we use our social media channels to create awareness that, especially now going into the holidays, especially now with everything being cold and outside businesses starting to even shrink more. I'm in the restaurant industry. This is what I've covered for years. And we've seen the decimation of what happened at this industry, and that not only does that affect the restaurant owner or the entrepreneur, that affects dishwashers, bussers, servers, hosts and hostesses, bartenders, the food truck delivery guy, the farmer that does it, the winemaker, the guy who makes kombucha. All of those people associated with that restaurant are getting affected. And now that wintertime is coming, and they've been able to survive because they have a great outdoors. The sun is beautiful, but now it's getting a little bit colder. We just saw LA shut down outdoor dining. That is for next month. That's going to be an absolute killer. San Diego is going to see a shrinkage once it gets below 62, where we all start growing neck beards, and we don't want to go out. It's too cold for us because we're meek weather people. But so these restaurants and everything are going to be even more affected. So the need for hunger and the need for help is getting more. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, it's the holiday season. We've got Thanksgiving coming up this week, and Christmas always not far behind. And can you imagine going hungry this time of year in particular? And I know a lot of people out there themselves are hurting, but it doesn't take much. In fact, it doesn't take a lot of money to get some nutritious meals going for families out there. And we're not talking about luxuries here. We're talking about just a basic need, food, so that they don't go hungry. Troy, you get out there and about, and you have a lot of fingers there on the pulse of what's happening out there. Are there some stories, some people you've talked to over time, and how much this has helped them?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first stories that really touched me was when I started talking to Feeding San Diego and checking in on them to see how they were doing in the beginning of all of this. They were telling stories of, a lot of people who go down there, wonder whether or not you really need the food. There is that kind of, hey, are you here? You have a nice car. Why are you here? And one of the stories that came out was one of the operators of the main feeding center, it was brought to his attention that somebody had a brand new Lexus there, and they were collecting all this food, and there was a serious concern over people that really needed the food, whether or not this person had a legitimate, need. And so the operator went over to the guy in Lexus and talked to him. And he said, "Oh, I'm here actually picking up for my elderly neighbors." So I mean, just picking up boxes and boxes for people of our elders who have been stuck in home and sequestered way more than we have, and they've been completely isolated. They don't have the help. And here was this, man just going down and collecting them for the elders in his neighborhood. I mean, it's just, there's so many stories like that everybody has come together. And in the restaurant scene, we've seen it is never in my 12-year career covering this industry has been so much solidarity. It is incredible. It is hey brother, can I borrow a cup of milk? Hey sister, can I borrow some flour? And they are all helping each other out. They're all lending resources. They're lending heaters. It really has taken what can be a fractious and competitive community and brought it all together under the same umbrella, and everybody's helping each other out.
That is a very good point. I mean, more than ever, if there's one thing that we can all get behind, something that we can agree, and that is that friends and neighbors, chances are, based on the statistics, 1 in 8 San Diegans, 1 in 5 children, you don't realize that someone is this on a daily basis. And if you could just give them a nice meal, fill those bellies and some nutrition, a basic thing. Wow. That's so special. We have, over the years in this 10-year partnership, raised millions of dollars to go toward giving meals. Troy, can you talk about if there's sort of one thing you'd like to say to make sure the generous San Diegans out there understand, one, how valuable they are, and 2, how much good they do? Can you sort of express that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a selfless organization, and food is the basis of life. Your day and a child's day, 1 out of 4 children, they estimate, doesn't know where the next meal is coming from. Food is the very basis of the pyramid of what you need to be a healthy, functioning human being. And the fact that we have 1 in 4 children across the United States who don't know where the next meal is coming from, and we have an organization that not only rescues food from going to a landfill and reduces food waste in America, which is a pandemic within the pandemic, but they get that good, nutritious, healthy food to people who are hurting. That organization is basically the basis of a healthy human life. It's all starts with food.
And again, just want to remind folks, if you're joining us, the month of 1 million meals kicking off today. This is a week early than we typically do it every year because of COVID, because the need is so much greater now, as you would imagine, than it has even been in the past. And the need has always been great. So all you have to do is go to 10news.com. At the very top of the homepage, you're going to see month of 1 million meals. You can click there if you want to donate. Also, there's a phone bank tonight from 4 to 8 p.m. You can dial that number. I'm going to give it to you really quickly if you want to jot it down, 858-500-7805. And again, it doesn't have to be much. Every little bit helps to feed a family in need right here in San Diego. And all of that, by the way, stays right here. It's local. It doesn't go anywhere else. Troy, I'm always amazed every year how people turn out. I mean, I feel like the last few years we've raised more and more, each year topping the last.
Yeah. It's amazing to be, especially because nobody's doing great right now. I mean, sure, a few people are. Amazon's doing okay, but no one is doing great. And the amount of generosity that people are showing, even when they're hurting, I've talked with people, restaurateurs and just friends or in various industries, have lost their jobs and are still going down and helping, are still donating, money, because we've realized, as our own existence gets threatened a little bit, we've realized and been put into the position of people whose existences are threatened on a daily basis. I think it made us all feel. It made us all feel like that kind of fear and instability, even if it's on a smaller scale, obviously. But it just gives you a little bit more empathy, and it's been, for me, it's just been great. It kind of opened up my heart again, and I like to think that I help out and I do good things, but it made me even take a hard look at how much good do you do? How can you help more? And I think that it's activated that neighborly, gene in all of us,
And for those people who are wondering, because again, we are in a pandemic, with social distancing and people are wearing masks, little bit about the logistics. What does it look like now? Because we've seen, and 10 News has been down at the warehouse, and the images of all hands on deck, and I've been there too, sorting things, and we're touching everything and loading trucks, and people are making deliveries, and there's a lot of contact that way. What are they doing now to make sure things stay safe in this world of COVID?
The great thing is that the drive-through distribution centers, is the solution to that. You just pull your car up, you pop open the trunk, a box of food is put in there, and you're on your way. It's a no-touch process. So it's really safe. And we know now, and I'm not a virologist, do not listen to my health advice, anything else, but I am somebody who studied it, especially as it pertains to food. And there is an excellent Q&A with the virologists that the LA Times did. And almost all of them have said, that if you take food and you get it from a place and you bring it home, the risk for you is very low. Again, not a virologist, but I did study this. I was wiping down my own pizza boxes with a Clorox wipe, in the beginning of this. And I've realized that, we don't need to go that far, and it's a very safe, very cautious process, especially with you just being able to pull up your car, get the box put directly into your trunk, and you're on your way. I mean, no touch. It's great.
And again, really quickly, in case you're just joining us, mention 10news.com. You can go there to donate, and your money, dollar for dollar, will be matched up to $20,000 because of the generosity of Tracon Pharmaceuticals, and we want to thank them, of course. So think about that. Whatever you give is going to be matched, and it will do even more. So there you're looking at our website, which also has some information there if you want to know more, and also a very easy way to give. Again, if you want to talk it over with members of your family, we have a phone bank that will be activated later today from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So you can call in and make a donation to help your friends and neighbors who are in need during this holiday season. And this food, basically, and the money, Troy, it's not as though, we're going to just buy everything up and then boom, one fell swoop. I mean, we could raise enough where this can go through past the holidays. It's not just a Thanksgiving, Christmas thing. We'll go past the holidays to continue helping people because they're going to need it.
Yeah, the need is going to get greater and greater as the winter. We've talked about this, and I always relate it back to the industry that I study, and because the restaurant and bar industry, employs 11 million people across the state. It's massive, and so the winter is going to be especially hard on every single business. It is going to be especially businesses that are participatory or event based, like going out to eat something, like going to a restaurant. So it's going to be there. The need is going to be there in January, in February. You look at the restaurants themselves right now. Their slowest months are usually January and February and September for whatever odd reason. But January and February, the only way that they really survive those slow months is by throwing holiday parties and New Year's Eve parties. Well, all of those New Year's Eve parties, all those holiday parties are canceled this year. So they are going to need an influx of cash. That's why I'm actually telling everybody not to cook at home, but actually to buy Thanksgiving from a local mom and pop who might need it. And all of this is to say to your question is that every industry and every person associated with that industry is going to need a lot of help through the winter. So any big chunks that you can do through this drive right here, or supporting a local business on Thanksgiving, whatever it is, give them that chunk of money to make it through what's going to be a really, really hard few months.
Actually, that is such a good point. I mean, what we're learning is, how this is a domino effect. So as you pointed out, a lot of Feeding San Diego in the past, they've been able to rescue food from restaurants, from the food industry, from grocery stores. And when restaurants and other food sources are either short, they're running out of food, or they're not in business in a normal way, so they just don't have the supply, the product, Feeding San Diego suffers. So as you point out, if you can also help them out, it's like a double win, a double bang for your buck, where you keep them going. They are the ones who help keep Feeding San Diego going, and it's a real win-win if people think of it that way.
Yeah, and I think it was 97% of the food, I believe, that Feeding San Diego gave out last year was reclaimed or saved from going into the landfill. And again, when we talk about this, and I want to reiterate a point that you said, Virginia, earlier, this is not bad food. This is not stale food. This is not, this is great food, a perfectly good food that otherwise in a few days would turn the corner, or whatever. And some of it's even just at the peak of its freshness. This is not old food. This is perfectly beautiful, good, nutritious food that, yeah, they need those restaurants in business because they had, I think it was 600, partners that they had that were donating them food. That number has shrunk significantly. Feeding San Diego has had to buy food for the first time in a long time. It's costing a lot of money just to feed the kids and our neighbors who need help right now.
Yeah. So again, all you have to do is, we realize a lot of people out there are hurting right now. So for those who can do a little something, just go to 10news.com. Right at the top of the homepage, you cannot miss it. There's a donate button. And also you can get more information if you're feeling like, well, I haven't really been a part of this in the past. I'd like to know more about it. There's a lot of information on there for you. And again, there's a phone bank tonight. Typically, we do a telethon in which we have our staff and people from Feeding San Diego and local celebrities, and we'll do it here at the ABC10 News studios. But because of the pandemic, we can't do that this year because obviously we would all have to be together in one room. So if you guys remember that, Troy, I know you do. We've had Chopper, the biker dog, and so many people come in and kind of drum up a lot of support and energy. And folks out there over the years have been great.
God, I want that back, Virginia. Oh, I just want to be in a room. I want to share. I want to drink your drink. I want to eat your meal. I want to rub the menu on my face for no apparent reason whatsoever. I want to sing. I want to stage dive. I want to do it all. And obviously we can't, do things like in-person telethon, and it creates a sense of community, so you do things like this, and it's harder to get the word out, so we do things like this to kind of, make up for those in small ways, for those like loud, big, fun events that we've created in order to, say, hey, this is fun. This is a real big need. Let's throw a party and raise money for a good cause. So we get in our living rooms. I've got my flip flops on. I don't even have respectable pants on. But I did put a shirt on, and I'm showing up and doing everything I can as for you.
I know. I'm so impressed by how groups all over San Diego have gone virtual. They're doing this to make up for the fact that while we can't do these in-person events that we're so used to doing, that we love and people miss. And as you point out, I can just touch stuff and not worry about wiping everything down, and go to a restaurant and be allowed to sit in there with people without being 10 feet apart or staying outside is great. We're in San Diego, and it certainly makes it a lot easier to do that in parts of the country, but it's nice to have the option of being in or out. So we cannot wait for that to come back. And just on the news side, we've been talking a lot about vaccines and the potential for vaccines and the results showing how effective they are, and maybe as early as next month some vaccines will be going out to the first priority group, the ones who need it the most. But until then, we're keep on keeping on and try to keep everybody safe. And if you're looking for something that you want to rally behind, if you're looking for a way to make a difference, you feel like, because it kind of helps do the spirit good to feel like you have something that you're working toward. This is a great cause, Troy, and I say that.
You made a great point, Virginia, and I want to. I've said this throughout when I advocate for helping people in the community, is that there's no shame in not having the money to donate right now. And this is in no way, shape, or form meant to make anybody feel bad that they can't financially help out. But what you can do is you can volunteer. You don't volunteer your time. You can spread the word online. You can, talk. Just highlight a story. That there have been hundreds of stories about what you've done and what Feeding San Diego has done. Highlight those stories in your social media. Just bring attention to it. There are ways that you can contribute to this whole cause without actually pulling any money out of your pocket. Of course, we would all love if somebody had, a fresh $1 million in their pocket and they would just donate it to Feeding San Diego. That would be fantastic. But, if you can't, we all get it. We're all in the same spot right now. Just help out in any way you can.
Yeah, that is such a good point, Troy. So for folks who are watching us, or if you catch it on our news shows later today, one way to help is to help spread the word, because there may be other people, friends, neighbors, coworkers who aren't seeing this right now, or who didn't catch it when we talked about it on one of our news programs. So if you get it out there on social media, if you're texting with someone, however you communicate with your circle, and just get the word out, and certainly allow people to make their own decisions, but just letting people know sometimes is enough, because they want to help and they didn't even know this was a thing. And that would be one way you can help if you don't have the money right now to give.
Yeah, you look at Feeding San Diego's numbers, and they've done a phenomenal job at growing their social media. But even when I look at their numbers on social media, I'm like, why do you not have 7 million people following you right now? This is one of the most important things that I can imagine, helping a neighbor in need. I want everyone to follow it. I want everybody to just, that we should all have in our day-to-day lives. Like, I follow comedians, I follow singers I like, I follow, authors that I love. We should all have those 5 charities that we love too, or those 5, cause organizations that really help a community. Give them a follow. Check in and see what they're doing once a week, once a month, whatever you can. We all have a lot to pay attention to these days, but I think that should be part of our daily regimen of information.
Yeah, that is a good point about the following. If you've been following the news closely, you know that there are a lot of huge A-list celebrities that have been helping Feeding America. Because obviously we're not the only community dealing with food insecurity and hunger, but just like they're doing, you can do that right here in San Diego, in our own community. And it is sometimes hard to believe there are so many people who are dealing with food insecurity, because we're the United States of America, and so the concept of people going hungry, we sometimes think that might be an underdeveloped nation, but it's right here in our own backyard, and very likely on your own street or in your own neighborhood. And so if you can give a hand to those folks who are right by you, that would be so greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and especially with the cost of living in San Diego, Virginia. I'm a born and raised native, and there is sometimes my wife and I were looking at trying to buy a starter home, and I looked at the cost of that home, see if we could finance it through the bank, and then I looked at the cost of a home in Des Moines, and I'm like, whoa, I could buy 9 homes. But it's crazy. I mean, ABC did reported on a study last year in 2019. San Diego ranked 64th out of 75 for cost of living in the United States. We're the 64th, meaning it's worse. We're almost the highest cost of living in the United States. The average rent here is, I think, $1,900. It was a year and a half ago. Whereas if you go to El Paso, that same rent will cost you about $793. So the cost of living here is so high. It's so hard, and that's why we found ourselves. A lot of us find ourselves struggling, whether to pay rent, buy food, whatever it is. It just costs a lot of money for people who work to live here.
Troy, we're getting ready to wrap up here, and I want you to give us some final thoughts, if you would. Again, this is a cause that's near and dear to your heart, and food is something a little bit about. So if you could make one more point of communication with the folks who are watching, what do you want to say?
I would just like to express to everybody that food insecurity and hunger is so much closer to you than you actually know. With 1 out of 4 kids, not knowing where the next meal is coming from in the United States, that to me, that boggles my mind. And as a food writer, I've seen the food waste that we've done. I've seen the fact that we can fill the Empire State Building 91 times with how much food we wasted in a year in the United States. It is a massive problem. And the fact that we have hunger and then we're still wasting food, those are 2 incongruencies that I myself cannot justify. And the way that we solve both of them is that thing right in the middle. That's Feeding San Diego. They prevent food from being wasted, and then they help people in need. To me, that knocks 2, if not 100 causes out of the park in the same little organization that's made of scrappy volunteers and people who care.
Troy Johnson, it has been a pleasure to talk to you. You know so much about this, and you have so much enthusiasm for it. It's really infectious. Thank you again. And I just want to say to folks out there, in case you missed it, or maybe you joined us late, very easy to make a donation. Just go to 10news.com. If you see right there, if you go to the top of the homepage, you click on it, there's a button there how you can donate. There's information there so that you can learn more about it if you don't feel like you know a lot about Feeding San Diego, as well as our partnership with them. It's almost 10 years since we started doing this, where we try to raise money to help those of our neighbors here in San Diego who are dealing with food insecurity. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. And San Diegans, so generous. I want to thank you in advance because I know a lot of you are going to reach into your wallets. There's a phone bank, I should say, tonight, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. You can call in and make a donation that way. Again, today is the kickoff month of 1 million meals, and your dollar will be matched per dollar per dollar, up to $20,000 thanks to Tracon Pharmaceuticals. So it's just a little something to give you some more inspiration to give. We want to thank you so much. We can do this. We can all fight hunger together. So again, thanks you guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye, Troy.
Thank you, Virginia. Have a great week.